Hey everybody, welcome to my In the Bag. Timmy was really hot after my latest performance down in Kansas, and he wanted me to come show you guys what I was throwing, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to help my friend out. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting with putters, if you played with me, you'll know I putt with P2s. I carry 3 of them around. First off, I have the prototype that just came out this year. Really nice plastic, really consistent release. I do carry multiples because the other 2 I have are a little more beat in. So if I want something that's going to stay in the air a little longer, or if I'm going to throw something around trees, I throw these 2 red ones here. Overall though, if you want something that goes in the basket, get a P2. Moving on to throwing putters, I carry 4 throwing putters. First I carry a Swirly S Line P2. This is something I'm going to throw in a lot of woods, open fairways that I need something to float and not fade too much. It's very stable plastic, it hold up to a lot of torque. So if I want to put a full-size shot in, and I want to go over something and keep it flat and land softly, this is what I'll reach for. Moving on then, I carry 3 zones. First zone I have is my least stable, be my Get Freaky. This is one I use for a lot of touch shots, a lot of landing softly, no rollaways. I can work it a little bit more. It'll hold a turn and then fade out reliably. Or if I want to put a little more angle on it, it'll keep panning the whole way. Feels really good in the hand. If you want something that feels really soft and it's going to hit and stick, I recommend a Get Freaky. Other than that, I carry an ESP and a Z. Very similar flights, except the ESP zone, it's not going to fade as hard. It's going to hold a little straighter before finally getting down. It's also going to hold a little bit more angle. So if you're trying to get touch shots through the woods, forehand or backhand, this is what I reach for. Finally, the Z zone. This is very stable. So if I want something that's going to finish hard and skip a little bit, I will reach for this one. Next up, I currently am carrying 3 mid-ranges. That's these 3 here, ranging from flippy, straight to overstirred. Fairly stable. First disc I ever bought is this Esp Flex Buzz. This one I can throw any season, and the colder the weather, the better the grip on this thing. Usually I'll throw this on a just gentle hyzer, and it'll flip over and keep panning before settling gently. So really nice disc through the woods. I won't throw this one forehand. This is just a backhand only disc. Currently got an old Originals MD3 in my bag. This is in C-line plastic. This one I really like for just those flip up, stay straight shots. So if I put a move on it, it's just going to hold that straight. It's not going to turn over as much, and it's just going to keep pushing forward before sitting down. Last, I have my Esp Buzz. This one is quite stable, so I can put a full bit of power into this, and it's just going to keep holding straight before finally finishing at the end. It'll also hold a good turn, so if I really wanted to thread the needle and have something still not turn over and finish left, I will throw this one. These ones I throw all backhand. I don't throw mid-ranges forehand at all. Next, moving on to Fairway Drivers. I currently carry 2 T-Birds, one in Star, one in Champ. This Champ's been in my bag for a while, but it's still fairly stable. So a lot of times I'll be throwing very straight shots that I need to finish left, or if I want to throw a slight turning shot, just a little bit longer than my Esp Buzz, I'll reach for this one here. It's a good workhorse disc. If you are looking for something that you need a little bit more distance in, I do recommend the T-Bird. Next up, I have the Star, which is a little bit more beat in, a little bit flippier. I throw this a lot more forehand than backhand because it does flip up and stand up and then kind of glide a little bit more before finishing. I will throw this on backhand lines if I need something that's a little bit flippier than this Champ. Next up, I carry 2 Felons. First, in this glimmer plastic, courtesy of shout out to Brian Freeze, whose name has been wiped off here incidentally. I still love you, Brian. I also carry a Lucid Felon. These are kind of becoming my go-to flippier fairway drivers. This glimmer one, I can put it on hyzer and it'll pop up and pan a little bit more before finishing. I throw this one on forehand and backhand. Forehand, it's just going to really flip up and carry, whereas backhand, I can keep it turning the whole way before finishing gently. This Lucid Felon, same thing, just a little bit more stable. It's not going to turn as much. It's going to get down a little bit quicker. I throw this one when I don't want to throw a Firebird, or if I want to throw something a little bit more stable than this Glimmer. Next up, for my bread and butter mid fairways, I carry 2 Thunderbirds. I got a Big Germ Swirly Star, and I have a 2019 Star Thunderbird. Both very stable, very straight. This Star Thunderbird's been in my bag for 3 years now. When I throw it hard, it's going to lift a little, turn a little bit before finishing strong. But I can throw this in almost any conditions and know it's going to reliably get down to the left. The Big Germ, on the other hand, very stable. it is almost Firebird stable. So if I want something that's just going to keep holding an angle and keep panning before finishing and skipping, this is what I go to. Next up, I have my main control Fairway Drivers. I carry 2 Firebirds. First one, just a stock run champ. Second one, a double XL champion. This one's a flat top. This one's just a regular bit of dome. Both very overstable. This champ one, I will throw flat, or anything about 300 to 320, and hope it's going to just pan and then hit and skip. I'll throw this one forehand mainly because it really does hold the torque. So if I want to force something over, it's going to come out anyway. If I want to throw it flat, it's just going to stay straight and then finish hard. This flat top, it's really more for spikes. So if I want something that's going to hit the ground and stick, this is what I reach for. So I will throw this one with big backhands over top of trees. I'll throw this forehands, flat, flex, hyzer. Really, this is one that I don't want to throw very far, but it's going to hit, it's going to reliably stay, and it's not going to go too far from where I want to land. Next up, getting in some distance drivers. Starting with my 2 flippy drivers. So I currently have Star Wraith and an ESP Hades. This Star Wraith is very flippy, so I'll throw this on forehands where I need something to flip up and just keep carrying over. I'll also throw this on big hyzer flips for my turnover, or on my backhand. So this one, very comfortable in the hand. It's a little gummier than some Star, but just feels nice. And if you've ever thrown Wraith, you know it's easy, controllable distance. It's really something that can work for everybody. The Hades, on the other hand, is something that's very understable. This is one of the prototype runs. I can throw this on a big hyzer and it's going to flip up, pan right over before carrying and finishing right. I will not throw this one forehand very often because it is so flippy, but in a big tailwind and I just need something and I have no danger, I will reach for this one to try to get a little bit extra distance. As far as rollers go, I don't throw a lot, but if I am going to throw a roller, I'll choose one of these 2 discs. This Hades will, when I get it turned over, it'll land, it'll go very straight. It won't get over to the right very much, which is very good if you have a wide open field and you need to just get a huge distance. I usually carry several destroyers, but I unfortunately lost a few when I was in Kansas. So I replaced my flippiest one with this Moonshine Raider that I got from Brian. This thing is very understable. This is one if I want to throw a big distance shot, I'll reach for this. I can throw in a little bit of hyzer, it's going to flip up and keep turning before finally turning over. Or I can put this with a little bit of force over on a big line, and it's just going to carry the whole way. So this is something I would throw for my max distance shots if I'm trying to push something past 450 out to 500, or if I get really lucky, even further past that. The other Raider I have right now is a Fusion Raider I just added. This one is a little straighter, but it does turn quite a bit out of my hand. So this is something I am going to start working and see if I can beat it into be another bomber disc. Right now, these 2 are both fairly new additions to my bag. Next up, moving to destroyers. Like I mentioned, I lost 2, so I'm down to 3 destroyers. I carry this 4-time Paul Macbeth. I got an F2 factory stamp, and I've got a Halo. This 4-time, I've beaten in quite a bit, where it's going to turn a lot. So if I throw it flat and put a lot of power behind it, it's going to really turn, and it's not going to want to fight back as much. But if I get it on a little bit of hyzer, it's going to flip up flat and just fly straight before it ended up fading out. The F2 destroyer is my stable destroyer. This thing is going to fly straight for me when I put a full bit of power on it. It's not going to turn much, but it'll still fade consistently. This is something I use if I need to throw a very accurate 400, 450 foot shot, and I don't want to miss my mark. I can throw this about 80% and land in that spot. The Halo Destroyer is kind of my go-to wind disc. If you've ever thrown these, you know that they're very stable. They can hold a lot of power. They're going to turn. They're not going to fly that far, but the whole point of throwing these is you're going to want to land right in your spot. You don't want to have something get caught by the wind and miss. I will throw all 3 of these discs forehand and backhand, and I'll throw them in different degrees. I will throw them with flex lines. I'll throw them a little bit of hyzer out of the hand, or I'll throw them straight. Lastly, I have my utility disc. So if you've ever seen one of these beauties, you'll know that they are stupidly, uselessly overstable, but by that same token, they are very fun. I've kind of found a use for it in more approach situations, where if you have a big headwind, big tailwind, and you need something that you got to throw up over top and you don't want it to pan left or right, you just want it to fall out of the sky, that's what these are for. So I had a situation when I was down in Kansas where I was out of position and I had to go over top of something, and I put it right beside the pin. So ever since then, I've realized that these discs for everyday use, you're not gonna enjoy it, but for those fun situations where you have to go over the top or you want to show off, I recommend the tilt. For the bag itself, I do currently have the Grip BX2, which holds a fair number of discs. It's also very comfortable in the back. It's not quite as big as the AX series, but it does work perfectly for what I have in mind. Some of the other stuff I carry, I always have 2 of these micro towels. They work really well if you're playing in a morning dew round in a tournament, or if you're playing when it's a little bit rainy. These things get the disc really clean. I also have my Bushnell Rangefinder. I don't use it much locally because I played the courses a lot, but if you're ever playing a course blind, these things help. If you, after your first shot you have no idea how far everything is, or if you want to know how far the hazard is, being able to check that right away is a huge plus. And lastly, big thank you to my friend John from Elf for giving me this in the middle of one of my roughest tournaments ever. I got my sports sack. So if your hands are ever a little bit wet, if you've ever got a little bit of tackiness from sweat, these things take it all right off. So it's a nice comfort to have on those days where either it's wet, you're sweating a lot, or your disc just doesn't feel quite comfortable in your hand. Think of it as a big reset button. So if you ever have trouble with your grip, I recommend checking one of these out. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like this content, please feel free to give the channel a like and subscribe. I know it really helps Tim out, and he can produce a lot more content with it. If you want any tips, please feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to share kind of my experience with what discs I'm throwing. Cheers.
Oh my god, so much pressure.
Oh, I know.
So much pressure.
Oh.